what's up, everyone? This is Ren with Dance with My Demons podcast. Are you looking to start a podcast? Then let Buzzsprout be the way. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show. Podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show could be online and listed on all the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and many more, just within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. With Buzzsprout, you can create something great together. Follow the link in the show notes, which lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. Buzzsprout will send you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and it's sent after a second paid invoice. And it helps support our show as well. Buzzsprout, the best way to create a great and professional podcast. Later. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dance with My Demons podcast. This is season 3, episode 2. In this episode, I've entitled it, Who Am I and Who Are You? So let's talk about who we are as human beings in the world we live in, living with mental illness or not, or dealing with the pressures of life and how we fit in, from a young child to an adult. Where is our place in this world, and how do we cope and manage it? First, far back as I can remember, being a young child, I guess I've always been somewhat introverted, even from a very early start. And I think maybe a small part of that had to be that I am one of 4 children, being the youngest, and my siblings being much older than I. There's a pretty decent age span between us. So I spent a lot of time alone as a child. I spent a lot of time with my mom, and at one point my grandfather too. So I think right off the bat, I just remember spending a lot of time on my own, in my own head, in my own fantasy world. Growing up, here I am 52, and growing up in the 70s and 80s, in my youth, spending a lot of time alone for the most part. Very early on, we moved a little bit, so it made it a little tough to get, situated and make friends. But I just remember being young and spending a lot of time alone and a lot of time in my head, my own fantasy worlds, creating these worlds of science fiction and things of that nature, and things that I would play with and things that I would watch growing up. And I think that started probably the pattern of me spending a lot of time alone. But the thing was, I didn't really have much of a problem with it. I always seemed to enjoy it. It always seemed, for me, and even to this day, I just always just was good in my own world, doing my own thing, undisturbed, creating new worlds and new fantasies and new things in my life, and enjoying them, as a young kid and young man, and, now as an adult. But as I started to get older, and you're in school, especially more so in middle school, and you're headed towards high school, you try to find, how do you fit in? And The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot going on in today's society, with people in general, not just kids, but also adults. There's a lot with social media, and a lot of what we see being very visual, and what we read, and especially social media. We're all trying to fit in a certain way. We're all trying to find our place. And I guess my point is, it's no different now than it was then. The only difference now is that there's more of an outlet, or there's more exposure to speech, or I guess, with social media, there's this instant access to people and to culture and to different things. Whereas where we were growing up when we were younger in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have that. The way you made friends and the way you fit in, or the way you was by immediate, by being there, and physically having to speak, communicate with people and make friends and, get involved. Whereas now you can do it from the palm of your hand, whether it be computer, cell phone, tablet, whatever it may be. That's probably the biggest disconnect from then till now, is how we did it. But it's still all the same in regards to, we're trying to fit in. And in a world where social anxieties, depression, cyberbullying, gender identity, political climate, social climate, there's just so much going on in how we try to fit in. I remember being a kid. I think every kid goes through that, but I think at the time you think you're the only one. And I just remember being a very awkward kid. I wasn't, a good speaker. I was very uncomfortable. I was kind of shy. But then I guess the early stages of my way of kind of trying to fit in was sports. It started for me with playing, Little League baseball. That was my first. It was a conscious choice. Yes, I did enjoy playing baseball, but it was also a conscious choice I made to want to do something to help me fit in. And so I guess to myself, to feel less awkward when I was growing up. To some extent it did work, and another extent it didn't, because it was something I was forcing, I guess to an extent, to do, to like force relationships, or force the idea of fitting in, when completely I don't think that's who I completely was. There were other aspects of me that enjoyed different things, but that was my introduction. That was my way to want to fit in with other people, and I guess not be made fun of, or not be looked at as a weirdo or a freak or whatever. That was my introduction. But ultimately, I ended up, I guess, embracing that, what you want to call being a freak, or whatever you want to call, or outcast, or whatever. I ended up embracing it, I guess, to an extent. And with a weird way of doing it, I was kind of, to some extent, I was kind of two people growing up. I was this kid that loved playing sports, and loved being cheered and patted on the back by my friends, when we did well. And there was also this other part of me that found a real connection and a real love and passion with music, and in books, and in video games, and in comics, and in movies, and just things of that nature. But I just remember music having the biggest impact on my life, and it still does to this day. It's still very much a big part of my life. And to some extent, I guess, internally, music is my best friend, because music is always there. It never lets you down, and you can pick and choose what you want to listen to suit your mood. So it's almost like the ultimate best friend. You want something that's going to make you feel good, you put something on that makes you feel good. If you want something that you want to think about or be introspective, you pick music of that nature. And that's the beauty of music and art and books. You can lose yourself in all that, in that fantasy. And in art and in music and books and everything, you always fit in, because you always find something that you can relate to, or that you can want to be. It kind of inspires you in a lot of ways. It's definitely was a great outlet for me, and still is to this day. There's not a day that goes by that music doesn't get played. I mean, point blank, the music is being played in the background right now. It's because there's always music going on in my life. Even when the outside world can be really crazy and tough and kind of, all over the place, music's the one thing, the one constant in my life that kind of is the glue that keeps everything together. It makes me feel good. It's there when I'm sad. It's there when I'm happy. It's there when I need something to kind of give me that little push to get me through my day. Those were different ways that I coped or managed being different, I guess, or wanting to fit in. I remember being in high school. I literally, probably, kid you not, first grade to probably 8th grade, they were definitely the awkward years. You look awkward, you're changing, your voice is changing, and your pimples and all that crazy stuff is happening to you. Your hair is not cool enough, your clothes aren't cool enough, and you got all this stuff, and you're trying to get through it and not be made fun of or bullied or hassled or anything, because they're always, for every guy that's trying, or person I should say, trying to fit in, there's always that other person that seems to have it all together, but they are very intent on being a pain in your ass through your childhood. I swear there was always that one person. But what I've come to realize is that now, as time has gone by, and knowing those people now out of school, those people that I thought that had it all together really didn't have it together. They were struggling themselves, but that was their way of dealing and coping, was kind of like hiding it by being that bully, I guess, pushing the attention away from them of feeling awkward or whatever, and putting it onto somebody else. It made it easier for them to feel weird, because they took the image away from them and put it on somebody else. That's what I've come to learn. It was tough. High school. When high school started, I made a conscious choice. I changed high schools. I went to a vocational high school, which allowed me, even though I lived in the same town I grew up in, I had the ability to change schools, and basically I looked at it as a fresh start. We're new people, and it's almost like I was getting a do-over in a lot of ways, and I changed my image and how I looked. And this is the 80s, mind you, where I became somewhat of a metalhead, I guess. Long hair, listening to heavy metal, and I portrayed that image, and that was part of who I was. But on the flip side, I was still somebody who was an athlete who still loved to play sports. And in my weird high school life, I did both. I think I was always struggling throughout that time to find my place, because even though I enjoyed both things, they were both images. They were both things about me that I was being to still try to fit in. And it's weird. It's weird. And I think as an adult, it's different. And the way you look at things and find things is very different. How you try to fit in, and I find myself now that I'm no longer in that bubble of school. I still find myself trying to fit in, but in different ways. Now it's because I'm living and managing bipolar, and there's a part of me where the world knows, and there's still this other part of me that the world doesn't know. So I'm still trying to fit in, I guess you would say. And that can add a lot of pressure. It could also add a lot of anxiety. I'm still somebody who's still very introverted, but I find myself at times being extroverted out of necessity to still want to fit in certain situations, and almost like to please other people and yourself, so you don't come off as completely a freak for wanting to be alone all the time. You put yourself in situations to be more extroverted and try to be more of the life of the party and have a little more fun and put yourself out there more to try and fit in. I find it now as an adult, it's a little tougher to handle because I expend a lot of energy having to do things like that, especially things of being extroverted and, being lively and putting myself out there. It takes a lot of energy out of me. And, I'm somebody, who's been living with being bipolar for a good, 12, 13 years now, where routine and schedule and habit and things that are stable are very important to me. They are how I manage my life. So, it's tough to juggle. So I could only imagine for, the people in today's world trying to fit in. And now in today's society, you have social media, you have, streaming, you have YouTube, you have TikTok, you have everything that you could possibly can at the palm of your fingers, and everybody seems to be trying to fit in. You see all these kids and even adults, and young, old, doesn't make a difference. It seems like everybody's doing a TikTok now just to try to fit in, to get attention. And it's literally their way of trying to find their place in this world still. Now it seems to be a little more heightened because of that access to social media, that instant gratification you get. Everybody's, it's literally like addicted to the like or the subscribe. Everybody wants that like. Everybody wants to that instant gratification of being told that they're cool, or whatever it may be. So you could see not a whole lot has really changed from now till then. It's just the things, the technology and the things that we have access to that make it easier, more accessible to how we go about it is different, but it's still the same. The scary part is the overload of the social media and technology. I find that it's become somewhat of an addiction, and definitely an epidemic of sorts, where people are so fixated on their phones and their phone apps and their phone games and their TikToks and their Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitters and Snapchat, everything. Everybody is kind of stuck on it now. And, it's almost like, it's like you're fixated on wanting to see what's happening on TikTok. Oh my God, like, what's going on? What am I missing? How am I going to get attention? How many likes did I get? Should I post this? Or who's posting that? Or what's going on? It's pretty crazy. It's pretty outrageous. It's a lot. And I don't know how, people are managing all this, because you hear a lot about in the news how mental health is, really an issue, and I can see why. Anxiety, has got to be through the roof. Depression has got to be through the roof. You've got, cyberbullying. You've got, this need to want to fit in. You've got this idea of what you think you should look like by what other people are doing. You got people wanting to be instantly famous and rich by doing these videos or TikToks and stuff. You have all these different pressures going on, but the truth is they're self-inflicted. They're not anything new. They're just, it's pretty crazy, because a lot of what's happening, it's, they're doing it to themselves. These are choices that we're making ourselves. We're allowing these pressures and these things that we use as tools for the exposure or for the attention and for that instant gratification. We're using this, but it's now become a negative. And so how do you cope in today's world when you're kind of doing it to yourself? And these companies who are creating these outlets for you to use, it's more to their benefit, because from a financial stance they're benefiting, but they don't really care of how it's affecting the individuals out there who are using these tools, and how it's affecting them and their minds, and the anxieties and the depression and the self-image issues and the racism and just the issues with social identity, gender identity, all of it. It's making it more complicated, because now, having that instant access, we have individuals out there who are using it as tools in a negative way as well, to bully others. They're taking their personal feelings and opinions and forcing it on others through social media, and in a negative fashion, unfortunately. Bullying people by the way they look, or by the music they listen to, or how they dress, or their bag that they have, or shoes that they don't have, or whatever it may be. It's being used all in a negative way, and it's actually hurting people now, where now you're seeing more issues with mental health, with anxiety and depression and PTSD and social anxiety, and there's just a lot of the negative going on because of these situations. For me personally, I find myself, technology is a necessity in this world that we live in today, to an extent. It's all in moderation, like anything, how you use it and how often you use it and the way you use it. Is social media and technology still a necessity to myself? Yes, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. But at the same time, I've made conscious choices in my life to also detox and disconnect. There's a time and there's an amount of time I would give to social media and to technology, and on the other hand, there's time that I choose to disconnect or do things that are unrelated to social media or technology or electronics, such as reading or exercise, or doing things outdoors, hiking or swimming or whatever it may be, taking trips, doing things to disconnect from the negative and allow myself to decompress and put things back into my life to make it healthy for myself and my mind. Because if you don't, and you continue to follow this path, you'll find yourself with more and more health issues and mental health issues, and even physical issues, which can be detrimental in a lot of different ways. To the youth of today, or the young kids of today, how do you manage? Probably one of the things that I've learned to manage in regards to wanting to fit in or not to fit in is, the first thing I did is I took stock in myself and know who I am as a person, and know that I literally don't care what anybody thinks about me. If you have something negative to say and you feel the need to say it to me, say it to me. I will definitely take it with a grain of salt. I won't take it to anything serious, and I promise you, it will have no effect on me, because I literally won't give it any more attention than it actually deserves. You just really learn to stop giving a shit. And when you learn to stop giving a shit, you find a strength inside yourself to do what makes you happy inside and out. When you stop caring what other people think about you, you start to feel more of a relief, less pressure, less anxiety, less depression, because the only person or the only voice that should matter to you is the one you give yourself. You have to tell yourself that you're important. You have to tell yourself that you're worthy. Only you matter to you when you look in that mirror, and how you look and how you dress. It should only make you happy, not what those other eyes think or have to say. And for those on social media, because there's, especially in today's society, in today's world, there's always those people out there that are just trolls looking to get their shit in and talk crap about everybody and get other people riled up and just stir things up, and just because there are just some people out there that just want to see the world burn, point blank. So you really have to within yourself find that confidence, believe in yourself, but always remember you do it for yourself, not for anybody else. And that even includes your own family sometimes, because sometimes the pressures of parents or siblings or friends that can be put on you can be tough, and it can be tough to live up to. You have to do it for you. You have to do what makes you happy. You have to dress for what makes you happy. You fit in whatever world you choose to, because it's the world that you choose to live in that's going to matter, not anybody else's world and anybody else's opinion. None of that means anything. Obviously your parents and your loved ones, sure, you care about what they have to say, but ultimately in the end, it's your life that you have to live, so you have to do what's best for you and what's going to make you happy, and not what other people's thoughts and decisions are. It's probably the best way to live in, I guess in peace, I guess you would say. It's tough sometimes if you have a big family. It can be tough to try and find your way in there and place, and how do I stand out? How do I get the attention I want from mom and dad? And it can be tough. And if you're in a family where there might be other family member that requires a little bit more of attention, whether for health reasons or not, it can be a little tough to fit in. Regardless if you're the oldest, youngest, middle, it can be very tough. If you're, it's one of those things that you have to find that confidence and love in yourself to be able to get through it. I'm going to leave episode 2 on that note, and I'll most likely continue because I have another topic that's going to I'm going to lead into from the ending of this one. So I hope this episode has helped somebody out there, and I hope to continue to get more listeners, and I hope everybody enjoys today's episode. So with that being said, stay strong in mind, stay strong in heart, but most of all, don't let the demons get you down. Later. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I'll be back with an all-new episode very soon. Until then, you can catch past episodes of Dance with My Demons podcast on anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast on. You can also catch me on Instagram at Dance with My Demons 69, on Facebook, Dance with My Demons podcast, on X at DWMD podcast 69. And also, if you or somebody you know is going through an emotional or mental crisis, 988 is the National Suicide Lifeline. Keep that in mind. We're all in this together, and everybody needs each other's help. So until then, stay strong in mind, stay strong in heart, but most of all, don't let the demons get you down. Later.